Continuing our reading in the World and Thorinn by Damon Knight, Chapter 11, Section 4. Thornton sent the children for dry wood. They found it without delay. The ground was dry only a few hundred ells distant. Thornton built another fire and lighted it. After about the same interval, it rained again and put the fire out. Thornton saw then that whoever ruled the world, whether it was gods, demons, or even Injuns, as the box seemed to think, they did not want him to inflate his bladder today. But he was loath to take it down, dry it and fold it and put it away indoors, only to take it out again tomorrow. What if there were a roof over the bladder and the fire to keep the rain off while the bladder filled? Such a roof would take him the rest of the day to build, and then it would be in the way when the bladder rose. But why not use the bladder itself as a roof? He cut a pole a little less than 3 times his height, measured the bladder with it, cut it again, and used it as a measure to cut another the same length. He trimmed and whittled the ends carefully to roundness, so that they should not puncture the bladder. Leaping up with the first pole through the open neck, he managed to get it crossways at an angle. Then, hanging from it and pulling the fabric of the bladder down, he adjusted it until it was level. He did the next same with the second pole, crosswise to the first. Now the bladder was spread at 4 points to its full width of about 17 ells, although it was hollow between. Thornton built a third fire. As he had more than half expected, it rained again. Now the spread bulk of the bladder sheltered the fire, although the rain smoked and steamed all around it. The hollow places between the poles began to fill out. Watching from his place under the tree, Thornton thought he saw the bladder straining upward. Exultantly, he took a step forward. While he was still in midair, there came a shattering crack and a white glare. Thornton tumbled into the underbrush, blinded, stunned, and deaf. When he picked himself up again, the children's cries were receding in the distance, and the bladder was in flames. Yellowish smoke was pouring from the fire. Presently it went out. The rain continued, turning the fire into a soggy pile of ash. What was left of the bladder hung by its cord from a single tree. The other was split and shivered at the base, as if it had been struck by a mighty hammer. Bits of the white wood lay scattered all over the clearing. Thornton sat looking at the ruins of his work. He felt a sudden elation and realized after a moment what it was about. He knew a way to get up through the cataract. Box, if it should rain here so long that the valley is flooded, will the waterfall keep on flowing or will it stop? It will stop, Thornton. So it must be. The rulers of the world, whoever they were, could not be expected to take such care of their subjects, only to let them drown in a flooded cavern. Now his way was clear. Only 2 panels of the bladder had been ruined by the lightning, which had run down them like a crooked river, burning away a channel nearly a span in width and leaving the edges blackened. Thornton made new panels, fitted them into place, glued and dried them. In one of the workshops he found a basket adequate for his needs. It was round, nearly 2 ells broad, and 2 spans deep. For a fire pit he brought clay from the river bank and formed it like a dish deep in the center of the basket, leaving a space half an ell broad all around for himself and his possessions, including the firewood and kindling he must take with him. The basket had 4 handles by which he meant to suspend it. For this purpose he knotted together a rigging to fit over the inflated bladder. He attached a long cord to the top of this rigging and 8 shorter ones at the bottom, which he brought together and fastened to the 4 handles of the basket. He also cut some pieces of wall stuff to use as patches in case the bladder was damaged. Now, he had to consider how to defend himself if he should be attacked by an Injun in the tunnels. He filled bags of flimsy paper with pitch and bound them to the tips of the stoutest arrows he could find. The bags would burst and splatter when they struck a target. But he was not yet satisfied. What he wanted was something to entangle the limbs of the engine. He thought of sticky cords bursting out of the bag. But if they were sticky, what was to keep them from clinging together? He began again, using fishing lines which he coated with pitch and then coiled inside the bag. But the bursting of the bag did not carry them far. Something else was needed. He thought of springs and began to make small circlets of sapling branches tied together with the thinnest thread. He fashioned stone weights to the ends of the fishing lines and coiled them so that the weights lay against the ends of the circlets where they joined. After many trials, he discovered how to mix the pitch with just enough water and fish glue to make the lines fly apart when the threads broke. At the end, he had in each bag a complicated construction of 3 sapling rings, each with its coiled and weighted cord, each set in a different direction. When he fired it at a tree, the sticky lines whipped out in all directions and tangled themselves among the branches. He prepared 10 of these pitch arrows, and in addition took a quiverful of the ordinary kind. Now he was almost ready. "Box," he said, "show me what way the engine brought me down into the cavern." In the crystal appeared the outlines of a slanting tunnel. It forked, and one passage went steeply up, while the other continued at the same pitch for a little space before it turned upward and became a vertical shaft. A tiny dot descended this shaft, moved down the slanting tunnel, and disappeared. "Show me where the water runs." The first fork and the stem of the Y filled with the shimmering blue. "And the second shaft?" Thornton asked pointedly. "Where does it go?" The outlines drifted downward in the crystal. The shaft rose through a vast space and continued upward. At the far end of this space there were other shafts. "What is that? Another cavern like this one?" "It is a cavern smaller than this one, and it is different in other ways." "Are there men in it?" "No, only engines." Thornton frowned. "Show me these engines." In the crystal, he was looking into a cavern full of confusing shapes. An engine drifted by, then another. They paused, touched the sides of one of the huge shapes that rose around them, then went on, for all the world like bees gathering pollen. They did not look at all like the engine that had captured him before. "Box, will they harm me?" "No, Thorinn." "And that shaft in the ceiling, where does it go?" The view traveled upward. The lines shrank together, and he was looking at another maze of passages, shafts, and tunnels. "Will it take me back to the midworld?" "Yes." How much of this could be believed? The conviction had been growing on him that a box was not to be trusted, and that if he had another chance to betray him, it would probably do so. Well, he would see. That's the end of section 4.